Welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony, and I couldn't wait for Eric to do this show. I've been waiting for a couple of days now, really since the championship week started, to wait for the top potential free agents coming out. And I told you guys that the Rams fix is easy. And if the Rams make these moves, I would say any three of these guys in any combination, and the Rams will be back to the Super Bowl next year. Okay? Sorry about that. So, without further ado, I want to make three things clear. Number one, the Rams' cap room, contrary to popular belief, isn't that bad. They have around, I think I heard, between $20 and $30 million to play with. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, when you sign a guy, it's not, oh, you sign this guy for $85 million, that now all goes on your cap. It's how you orchestrate the deal. I think it's actually $20 million, but whatever the number is. The Rams are going to be tight, and they're going to have to really finagle the way they do some things. So here's what I'm hoping. First of all, there's no guarantee any of these five guys will be free agents, but it's something to keep an eye on in case they do hit the market. All right? So looking at the Rams' problems this year, the back end will take care of itself once Johnny Johnson III comes back from his injury, right? We'll have Johnny Johnson III and Taylor Rapp at the safety position. Goodbye and good riddance to Eric Weddle, and we're good. That's going to free up money too, by the way, if Eric Weddle retires. We get that money back on the cap that we were going to pay him this year, right? So that's one. Number two, okay, the Jalen Ramsey situation. Now, we could free up a bunch of money if we don't sign him. Because right now there's a lot of speculation that money's tied up here. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, just because you trade a first-round pick doesn't mean you then sign the guy, okay? I understand it sucks. It was a bad trade. It was a chance that the Rams took at the midway point, hoping that they could shore up that back end and give Aaron Donald more time to rush the quarterback and that the offense would figure itself out. They took a chance, just like they did in Dante Fowler Jr. last year, and it didn't pan out. Such is life. But you do not then completely submarine your organization for the next 5 to 7 years by signing this tool bench to a long-term contract. All right? So here's what you do. I want to remind people, okay? There's a lot of teams that have taken a fly on a guy for a one-year deal and let him go. Not a lot of trades have happened in the midway point, so I can't use that as a point of reference. My humble opinion is that the Rams should not sign Jalen Ramsey, but I'm going to operate under the assumption that they do, which will take them from around 35, 40 million with the Weddle retirement and probably cut that in half and bring us down to 15 to 20 million, which is why I say that's our number going into free agency. I don't like it, but it is what it is. So what's out there? Well, as we know, the Rams' offensive line was a serious issue. We also know that Brandon Cooks and his injuries isn't panning out for the contract. I foresee the Rams either trading him or cutting him and taking a little bit of a cap hit, but saving a bunch of cap money. Okay? So look for that to happen this offseason. So Brandon Cooks goes bye-bye. That allows us to keep Robert Woods and allows us to free up some money next year, the following year, I should say, for Cooper Kupp. We still have Josh Reynolds. People are going to be like, oh, we're good. But there's somebody potentially out there who is the best run-blocking wide receiver that I have seen in the National Football League since Stephen Baker of the New York Giants. And I'm telling you guys, that dude could block with the best of them. All right? So I look at this situation and I go, okay, so offensively, we got some holes to fill. We're going to get Jalen Ramsey, probably. So that gives us a corner, and now we've got to figure out, is Hill, is Long, is Williams? I think Williams from Baltimore. I think that's the future at that position. You got Jalen, you got Williams, you got Johnson III, you got Taylor Rapp. Now for depth, you've got David Long, you've got Ty Hill, you've got Nickel Roby-Coleman. You got a lot of help on that back end. Linebacker, really simple. Really, really simple. The Rams have to re-sign Dante Fowler Jr. and Corey Littleton. Now, that signing is probably going to cost them another $10 million. So now you're looking at around $15 to $10 million for free agents. That is it. That's all we're going to have. Right? Now, well, Anthony, what about Greg Zuerlein? Yeah, we'll probably sign him, but that's not going to be a huge cap hit. I would be shocked if the Rams didn't sign their kickers. Okay? But I'm figuring them into the Fowler and Littleton thing because usually kicker money doesn't really kill you on the cap. And especially with guys like that, you can basically put on a 7-year contract and you won't even feel the effects for a couple of years on the salary cap. So don't worry about the kickers. Yes, those guys need to be re-signed. I'm focusing on Littleton, Corey Littleton, and Dante Fowler Jr. because that's what's gonna hit us in the cap. Okay, Anthony. So we sign those guys. Let's say you're right. Let's say we're at around 15, 12 million. What do you got? Well, Andrew Whitworth is up there in age. He wants to come back for one more year. You could sign him to a 1-year deal that won't affect your contract. Okay? At that point, you can groom Noteboom at the other guard position or the guard position for another year. Havenstein, you give the walking papers to. We get our center back from his injury, the kid from Michigan State. He's good. And then you got Blythe at the other guard that you're going to kick out and put in the as a backup. So he'll come in and help out, right? Now, I really like Davis and the other kid that played tackle for us at the end of the year. Those two rookies look like they're the real deal, right? So what do? Well, if you're smart and you're the Rams, you still sign 2 guys. Now, you got this kid from Cleveland, right? That was a throw-in. I wasn't a fan of that move. You need a security blanket in case that doesn't pan out. So the number 1 free agent, and you'll get him for cheap because he's had injury problems. He's been down and out in Washington. But when healthy, he's a mauler, a run-blocking monster at guard. And he's what you call a 2-tier free agent if he goes. And I'm talking about Brandon Sharif of the Washington Redskins. That has got to be the Rams' number 1 preseason preseason priority in the free agent market outside of signing their own guys. If they get Brandon Sharif, now you got that one kid Davis starting at guard. You've got Blythe as a backup. You've got this other kid from Cleveland as a backup, and you've got Sharif. You've got a 3-man battle for that guard spot to see who's going to get it. Well, Anthony, what about Noteboom? Well, Noteboom needs another year. So you have 2 options with him. You can groom him and just bring him in to spell for Whitworth when games are starting to get out of hand and give him a breather, or you make him battle for that other tackle spot with the other rookie on the other side. Okay? Now, personally, with Whitworth, I think you got to look at that in the face and you got to say, Andrew, I appreciate everything that you've done, but if we bring you back, it's going to be for depth purposes, not for starting purposes. Noteboom tore both his knee ligaments. That scares me. There is a guy that tore his knee that's coming back that had a good year this year, but is going to be another 2-tier D lineman who's been contemplating retirement. And I'm talking about Anthony Costanzo from the Colts. Sign him. That has got to be the Rams' number 2 priority. And you tell Noteboom, look, Whitworth is going to retire. Costanzo's contemplating retirement at 31. He'll be 32, 33, 34 by the time that contract runs out. You can show us your value by being there in case Costanzo, because you've got him locked up. There's no reason you need to even let him go, right? You take a chance on these guys, and you've got the sure thing in Noteboom if those guys don't pan out. Now you've got depth across the board. You think about this now. Okay, you've got a guard with two deep at guard, right? So basically, if any one of those guys go down, if Sharif or whoever gets that starting spot goes down, you've got Blythe and you've got Noteboom. At center, if he goes down, we'll just, again, I think Blythe is multi-purpose. He could play guard as well. You could insert him there for a few games if we lose our center due to injury. And then at the tackle position, you're too deep. Because you're going to have either Costanzo, well, more than likely you're either going to have Whitworth or Noteboom to play there moving forward. So now that offensive line is set up. It's bueno, right? It's perfect. Done. And by signing those two guys, you probably will cost yourself around $6.5–7 million in salary cap. So let's say that number's 12 for argument's sake, okay? And let's say that it costs you $6 million. Well, now you've got $6 million, okay, to sign a wide receiver. Because Josh Reynolds is great in his role. Cooper Kupp is great in his role. Robert Woods is great in his role. But you need that third receiver, that Brandon Cooks, that guy that can stretch the field to come in and do the job. Now, I think they're going to re-sign him, but your number 4 priority. And oh, by the way, if Costanzo falls through, if he ends up retiring or you can't sign him or he's too expensive, Brian Beluga, the Green Bay Packers, is my third option. That would be the backup to those two options. But he's going to be a one-tier tackle. So you're going to have to pay him more money, which is why I say the Rams should target Costanzo. All right? Now, as far as the wide receiver position goes, really easy. Emmanuel Sanders of the 49ers. Best run-blocking wide receiver that I've seen since Stephen Baker of the New York Giants. Not to mention he could stretch the field. He's the one that burned us on 3rd and 16 a couple of times now. Okay? Now, I think the 49ers will probably re-sign him because they know his value. But if he's available, the Rams should jump. Okay, Anthony, well, let's say he's not available. What do the Rams do? I think you hold serve. I think you hold serve and you turn your focus to defense. Now, this last one that I'm going to bring up, this is an option for 2 reasons. One, you're unable to sign Corey Littleton, or you're unable to sign Dante Fowler. Maybe you sign one, but you can't sign the other, or you don't sign either. Okay? Well, what's the most pressing position at that point? You can find pass rushers in the draft. It's harder to find a great linebacker in the draft. So I would say you turn your focus to D-line in the draft and you hope for the best where you're at. I believe the Rams will sign both, but let's say they only sign one. And let's say the 49ers sign Emmanuel Sanders. Because again, if they sign one and not both, then that's going to free up. So here's 2 different scenarios. Scenario 1 is everything pans out the way I think it's going to. The Rams sign their guys. They let the right guys walk. They get Costanzo. They get Sharif. And they're able to get Emmanuel Sanders. Oh my God, we got Emmanuel Sanders. This is fantastic. Now, you're good. Right? But let's say that they don't sign Emmanuel Sanders because he ends up re-signing with the 49ers like I think is going to happen. Well, like I said, you hold serve there. Now you turn your focus to defense and you get yourself Bud Dupree, the linebacker from the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's a potential free agent. Now Bud Dupree is a pass rusher. He can cover, and he's a sure tackler. And he's one of the best linebackers in the AFC North. He's one of the best linebackers in the AFC North. I think you sign him, now you can use him as that extra rusher. You can use Corey Littleton as that extra rusher and put the other one in pass coverage because really you have twin Littletons is what you have. You have an outstanding cover guy who can rush the passer, and you have an outstanding cover guy who can rush the passer. Now, if the Rams don't sign, this is why I say the Rams don't sign Dante Fowler Jr., but sign Corey Littleton if they can only sign one or the other. Because you get Bud Dupree and make him your new Dante Fowler. Mission accomplished. You're still good to go, right? Now, let's say that the Rams don't sign Corey Littleton, but they do sign Dante Fowler. Well, just insert Bud Dupree where Corey Littleton was, and you've got yourself a solid linebacker. This is a fail-safe. The Bud Dupree signing is a fail-safe. If you lose one of those guys to an injury, let's say you do re-sign him, well, you just bump him to that position, put in your backup for him, and you've got the same defense on the field, essentially, even though you lose one of those 2 outstanding players. This is an absolute fail-safe method. Guys, if the Rams do this, they'll not only win the NFC West, They'll dominate in the playoffs and they'll win the Super Bowl. I'm just telling you. There is no way you can find a kink in this armor if the Rams follow this program. Okay? We've got to address that O-line. It would be great to add at wide receiver, and it would be great to add at linebacker, but you're not going to be able to do that if you sign all your guys. So I say for the Rams, you look at your defense and you go, that's what we're putting our home money in, money for the home guys, the guys that we want to keep in-house, and we're going to spend the outside money on the offense. And the draft should be a blend of both. If the Rams do that, they can't lose. I would foresee a 14-2, 13-3 season, and they'll cakewalk into the Super Bowl. They'll just cakewalk into the Super Bowl, much like the 49ers did this year. They've got that kind of potential with those guys. And there's 5 guys to look for. So I'll wrap it up with this. Anthony Castonzo has got to be your number 1 tackle that you target. But the number 1 guy you target is Brandon Sharif from the Redskins. Cheap, second-tier guy because of his injury problems, and it adds depth to the position that the Rams hopefully finally have some depth at. Anthony Castonzo would be your number 2, obviously your tackle. If Castonzo falls through, you go with your number 2 option, which is going to be more expensive, in Brian Beluga. Emmanuel Sanders, the wide receiver from San Francisco, and Bud Dupree from the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's who the Rams should target. Those are the guys that I look at the top 25 free agents and I go, wow, these guys could be really good for the Rams. Now, I know what you're thinking, Anthony, none of those guys are number 2 if they're top 25. Yeah, they are. They are because as more guys come out, as injuries and concerns come up, people are going to, especially with Brandon Sharif, they're going to bring those prices down. With Castonzo contemplating retirement, that's going to bring his value down. So those are 2 two-tier guys. Now, you're right, Emmanuel Sanders and Bud Dupree are not 2-tier, and Brian Beluga. None of those 3 are 2-tier guys. So that's why I say you can only get 1. Okay? So maybe the best option would be Bud Dupree, but I just like the idea of freeing up money. And, of course, this is contingent on the Rams telling Brandon Cooks, adios via con Dios. If they sign him, then they're really looking at Brandon Sharif and Castonzo, and that's their only option. So time will tell. That's my assessment moving into the offseason. I'm getting excited for the Rams. I think there's a lot of potential out there. And to MM Forever, I want to end this video with this. Congratulations on your 49ers winning a big game. They dominated the championship game as we all knew they would. I'm an NFC guy, so as much as it pains me to say, being a Ram fan, I'm not rooting for an AFC team in the Super Bowl, especially when they're playing an NFC West representative. So, like I did in 1988, I'm rooting for the 49ers. But that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, like, smash the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. Tell me what you guys think. I'm Anthony. This is Total Football Talk, and that's a wrap.